Well, hello good people. Part 6 of the Pietenpol Ford build. So today let's get these exhausts finished. 2 straight stubs, numbers 1 and numbers 4, and then 2 slightly cockeyed stubs for numbers 2 and 3. Need to finish cleaning up the plates first as well. If buying the Saw of Satan wasn't bad enough, I've got another appalling admission to make. I went to my favourite metal store and they didn't have any Starrett blades. They were out of stock. But the man in there assured me that these Sandflex blades made by Baco are just as good. They're made in Sweden, so I suppose if they're as good as my Volvo V70 and ABBA, then they're probably very good indeed. We'll give them a go. Well, the Sandflex Baco blades seem pretty good. I'll reserve judgment though until I've cut some 4130, because all these chunks of 4130, when I've been making fittings for the Oronka C2, they've all been cut with Starrett hacksaw blades, and I've never had one let me down. They are very good. But we'll try another day. Be like Project Farm, I suppose, although I don't sound like Kermit the Frog. A subscriber suggested I might use a grinder instead of the Sawzall. Now, the thing about sawing, unlike grinding, is all this sawing produces sawdust. And of course, it goes in a downward direction and is easily cleaned up with a shop vac. But these blasted things, wonderful though they are, great way of removing lots of material quickly, make such a mess in a workshop. I mean, you watch chaps and they're sort of grinding away and this stuff's going all over the place, all over the shop. And it's horrible, horrible stuff, grinding dust. So I use the angle grinder outside. I'm going to set it up outside now, actually in a vise, and go and grind up the edges of those exhaust plates. As pointed out by a subscriber, I could have finished these 2 as one with just one piece of steel, but I rather like this idea. I'll paint all this in. It just looks a bit less heavy, if you like. Artistic. I know it's bullshit really, but humour me at least. I didn't say earlier in the previous video how I cut the holes. Obviously I used one of these hole saws. They're quite good. I bought this one in Ace Hardware in Abu Dhabi some years ago. It's done a lot of work. You just got to keep them cool as they go. I've got a drilling machine in the corner of the shed, not the one that's on my bench, that's got very slow speed. I sort of sit there on a jerry can. It's not in the most photogenic place, so I didn't bother filming it. But with a nice slow speed and lots of coolant, which is just water, these things go through anything. They go through some really thick stuff. I've been through 1/2 inch plate before now. I've even once drilled through 1 inch plate with another one. Not this one. You can tell by how deep it's gone there. course, these ones are meant to last an awful long time, according to the Austrian corporal, and they do if they're kept cool. This is one the Ministry of Defence gave me about 35 years ago, and it's still as sharp as anything. Again, just lots of coolant on it. So the next job is to file the holes out for the stubs. Obviously that's an intake and that's an intake. There's a bit of burr on it, so I'll just sort of blend the burr out. I don't want to use the word gas flow. That's like pretentious with my gloriously gutless carburettor. But we'll clean the holes up there and get these filed out for the pipes. I've cleaned these up with the flap wheel outside just to get rid of the mill scale on the steel, so the braze will make a good fillet. We don't want these stubs breaking off, so you want a decent fillet of braze. I'm just going to run the fire around in there as well, put a little bit of a chamfer so the braze tends to go down the joint. I've cleaned the mill scale off the pipes as well. So what I'm going to do is line them up. I'm actually going to braze these pipes in first. Once I've checked they're square that way and that way, I'll do both straight pipes on each plate. And then when it comes to putting the wonky pipe in, I'll be able to line it up with the pipe that I know is already straight. I've just temporarily fitted these with the two straight pipes. They do line up, so all looks okay. I just want to work out how much wonkiness to put on the two middle pipes. So I think I'm just going to cut a V out of them at 2 inches, and then on the opposite side of the pipe cut a V at 4 inches, and that should allow me to sort of joggle the pipe over. And then I think I'll braze them up straight again rather than weld, but let's go and cut some pipe and then see. It suddenly crossed my mind as I held the saw up to the pipe that I could just cut it, reverse the piece of pipe and cut it again. Do the same thing a little way along, and I end up with, because if I cut this pipe again at the same angle and then reverse the next piece, I end up with the offset I want. That's what we want, exactly like that. When you quench something like a pipe, I just plunge that in water. Be a bit careful you don't get steam come out the end that you're holding. So you've got to plunge it as quickly as possible so you don't go and scald yourself. Anyway, that's taken most of the flux off, so I'll give it a quick clean up. And then we'll cut both these to length and braze them into the main plates. That's the stub exhaust and manifolding finished. It's all gone together quite well. You can see how the flux is beginning to powder. I'm going to unbolt these in a moment and chuck them outside in the damp for a while just to help the flux fall off. It amuses me rather that one will have the carburettor bolted on like so, and of course, as well as the 4 exhaust spitting fire, propeller whirling around just here. You have to be quite careful when adjusting the idle mixture or the tick over there. Of course, it has an adjustable main jet on this carburettor as well, which goes in there. So, well, that'll be amusing. I've decided to rebuild this Zenith carburettor. It needs a few new bits. Rebuild kits are available, as are new parts generally. Look at the float there, it's collapsed. It looks like there was a hole in it. I guess it probably leaked. Someone drilled a hole in it to get the petrol out and then tried soldering it up again. Probably got the whole thing a bit too hot. And as the solder solidified and the float cooled down, the air inside contracted and sucked it in. So there's a box full of bits and it all needs a good clean. Ideally, I put it in a sonic cleaner, but I don't have such a thing. But I read on the internet, so of course it must be true, that if you take something like this, take it apart, or screw there, and put it in a bowl of hot soapy water, and then play AC/DC at it, very loud indeed, it will work just like a sonic cleaner. Got to be worth a try. Well, that's had about half an hour's worth of Mr. AC/DC's finest polyphonic improvisations. Let's see if it's worked. No, it's rubbish. I can't believe I ever believed some nonsense I read on the internet anyway. But I've got a better idea. Well, that's astonishing. The water's all gone. And, well, that's in its place. There we are, Professor Richard Dawkins. You should go to church on Sunday. Thank you for watching.